Hi, this is Eternal King bringing you another LOR video today. So it turns out that every deck I touch is basically pure gold. In the Eternal format, Standard is basically the opposite. I don't understand LOR Standard even the slightest. I won't pretend to. I haven't built my channel around it. But when it comes to the Eternal format, I just keep finding that my decks are doing exceptionally well. Part of it is just my inherent understanding of the format and card selections and things of that nature, and the other part is that a lot of pro players, masters level players, play the game far too linearly for a format like Eternal. Um, Typically, they will, try very straightforward strategies. So they'll, okay, this is my ping spam deck, this is my board spam deck, this is my open attack deck, this is my card draw deck. I'm just going to draw a bunch of cards and hope something happens from it. And then that's going to win me the game. And Eternal isn't like that. Eternal's like jazz. You just kind of got to go with it, feel it out, figure out what your power plays are, your best lines of play on the, on the play, like while it's happening, while the game is progressing. You have to figure out your best line of play and adapt to that certain situation. And if you're able to do that, you're going to do very, very well. So this particular deck that I was surprised at the performance. Previously, we talked about Action Samara being very, very good, being probably one of the top new decks in Eternal. I stick with that. I've had amazing luck with Action Samara. I think it's a very good deck. Samara, again, not even being that important. Auction's just a great card in a mid-range kind of spell strike shell, and he can get there practically on his own. And then if Samara, rallies him, then fantastic. The other deck that's really great is Evelyn Kindred. So you want to talk about kind of control decks that are more my style. They're more aggressive. They're more mid-rangey. This deck is feeling amazing right now. So basically it's Dark and Halberg. Dark and Halberg is a very, very good way to cash out on things like Salter and things like Husks, making them bigger. It can very flexible. You can kill an ally and then buff up the Husk, and then the Husk will, I believe, all of those stats will transfer. I'm not entirely sure on the equipment interaction, but more likely you're killing the Husk and applying it to your champions or your creatures to make them bigger. So Dark and Halberg being a one-mana cash out on just all of the Husks you'll be generating in this deck is very, very good. It's also a one-mana activator, a very strong activator for Kindred, and it's also uncounterable. You can't counter the equipment play like you can with a spell or a creature. If you try to hate spike a creature, your opponent can respond. Well, if you Dark and Halberg a creature onto your Kindred, the opponent can't respond. The trigger's just happening. It happens instantly. So Dark and Halberg being a really good friend of both Evelyn and Kindred, mid-range champs that get very, very big. The second card I really like here that has been overperforming for me is Eris. So I didn't think looking at this card stat line that it was any good, but Eris is amazing. Again, you have to play it with the Husk, basically meaning that you have to slow roll her a little bit, because if she comes down with a 2-1 stat line or a 1-2 stat line, she's a much better card than she is by herself as a 1-1. As a 1-1, she's going to get pie tossed and pinged, and like a million things are going to happen to her. But with all the Husks you have running around, it should be no problem to buff her stats a little bit. You can give her, if you get lucky, you'll give her Spell Shield or something. And then she's just, she's an elusive, which means she can block elusives, which is very relevant in Eternal. There's just a lot of RNG in this format, a lot of ways that you can roll elusive or just play an elusive deck and just swing under your opponent. I've seen people try to grant Master Yi elusive and make the deck work that way, Master Yi, and grant him elusive through P and Z and just have that surprise damage swing and stuff like that. So, just having a creature in your deck that is elusive and furthers your win con and is very good is important. So I'm very happy to include her in the 2-mana slot for this deck. Glimpse Beyond, obviously, easy card draw cash out for Husks. Why wouldn't you run it? Hate Spike is a 3 of. Hate Spike was nerfed, but it's not nerfed for Evelyn. It still generates the Husk in Evelyn decks, so really happy to run Hate Spike. Salter, again, it's a junk creature with a 1-3 body that you can sacrifice with Halberg, and it creates the Husk. Death's Grasp, of course, great removal option. Domination buffs all your Husks, pretty much mandatory. Vora is a solid body that generates a Husk. And then, obviously you're going to want to hit one of these cards, either Vora or Domination or Salter or Eris, before playing either the Evelyn or the Kindred, because you want your Evelyn and Kindred to be big, so they are hard to kill. If you play the Evelyn on 4 with the Husk, a lot of the time it's just GG if your opponent isn't teching the hard removal. I've said that this isn't a Vengeance meta, so I am kind of taking advantage of that. That just, you're not going to have the answers for the Evelyn or the Kindred. I did want a little bit of healing into this deck, into the aggro matchup, so I am running Withering Mist over Withering Whale. Kind of an underrated card. Basically, Mystic Shots 2 things and drains 2, so you're potentially healing for 4. Basically invaluable in the aggro matchup. My last creature, originally I was on Rekindler, but I actually found out after 3 games straight wins that like my champions just weren't dying because they were so big, and the opponent wasn't teching the removal. So if you have to feel it out a little bit. There are some options for your top end. Typically, if you're not running the Rekindler, then you're either running Spectral Ironhound or the Aether Fiend. Spectral Ironhound will let you go wide faster with stats. I don't think that really matters in a deck like this that is so control focused, so I'm just going to run Aether Fiend. I'll just play the Crumble on a body and just be like, okay, you go. Is that going to work for you? And potentially force something out of the opponent while playing the body for tempo and potentially triggering the Kindred as well. It should be good enough. In this particular list, because there are so many Husks. Don't play Aether Fiend otherwise. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you're just playing Aether Fiend onto a Husk, it's so low commitment and it matters so little that you might as well just do it. It's like whatever. It's a Crumble on a body, and that's good enough for me. You can notice that we're not actually playing Crumble in this list, so I'm happy to play Aether Fiend because we're so 4-drop heavy. So I just felt, let's try Aether Fiend out. Vengeance, this is a hard control deck. We are trying to be the biggest mid-range deck, and in that instance, if the opponent plays something bigger, then we're going to Vengeance it. And then finally, one Atrocity, because why not? I never even play the Atrocity, it's just there, just because what else am I going to play? This deck feeling very good. Again, the Aether Fiend is flexible. Feel free to run the Iron Hound for, the more standard players who love the board spam. Go for that. It's not going to, let you down. But I'm going to run the Aether Fiend. And if you do find that people start running the hard removal again, then you just go back on the Rekindler. So it is very flexible. Originally, I was on 3 Rekindlers, and I just found that I was just playing it for the sake of playing it. Without any champions dying. So just, Aether Fiend is going to do the same thing, but a little bit better. Yeah, so this is Elusive King signing out. Really, really happy with the success rate for my brews and my decks these days in the Eternal format. I really think that I've cracked the code here for the way this format should be played. Very Jazz-like, very flexible, right? Yes, we can be the big bad aggressive people with this deck thanks to Evelyn. We can also be the control deck thanks to the Death Grasp, the Hate Spikes, enough draw in the mid-range shell. Then the Kindred triggering, the healing, and then kind of the hard removal off the Aether Fiend or the Vengeance. Again, if we're just constantly forcing resources out of the opponent's hand to deal with Husks, the idea is that, while developing big tempo plays like Kindred and Evelyn, the idea is that the opponent is going to, even if they have unlimited draw, they'll just run out of stuff eventually. They'll just run out of answers while you're tempoing out on open attack pressure. And, if not, if you really don't feel comfortable with the Aether Fiend, it's also entirely correct to just jam more draw in this shell. You're not going to feel bad about it, just like Spirit Leech, right? Spirit Leech is such an auto-include in so many decks that, I can't, discourage you from running it. So feel free to do the Spirit Leech if you want. I'm comfortable not needing as many cards because the cards that I run are good in the deck. I don't just need to keep drawing and drawing and drawing and cycling and cycling and cycling when I know that I can just win off the Evelyn or the Kindred. But yeah, give it a shot. I'll post the deck code in the video comments. Let me know if you have any luck with it. Alright, take care.